Hey there, I'm B. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about interfaces, and I have 3 different examples where I use interfaces. I also want to say that I'm the creator of Witcher Academy, a game where you are a witcher apprentice and have a cat as a spirit companion, and you can learn all sorts of magical skills. We just publish the Steam page. I'm gonna leave the link below, so please, if you like cats, magic, and potions, and all sorts of things, please check it out and wishlist. For today's tutorial, I have 3 examples. I have this item interactive that you can take, this sashimi, and yeah, I can take it and I can carry this around. I have this cat, and I can interact with the cat, and it's asking me for food, of course. And I also have this box that if I interact with it, it will move just a few steps in that direction. So I'm using the interface for these 3 objects, but you can extend this for more type of interactives. So the example that I'm going to give here is an interactive type of interface. First thing first, what is an interface? So when you work in code, you can have normal classes, you can have abstract classes, or you can have interfaces. A normal class will be something with variables, properties, functions, something that you will normally use all the time. Then you can have an abstract class when you can declare some kind of definition for child classes. And an interface is very similar to an abstract class, but the difference between the 2 of them is the abstract class you can declare and define the body of the functions, and an interface is more like a high-level type of definition. You will use abstract classes in one situation and interfaces in other situations. The cool thing about interfaces, I like them a lot because you can define a type of functionality, which in this case is an interaction, and you don't need to know anything about the object that you're going to interact. That's why I can have a cat, which is a character, this object, which is an actor, and also the sashimi that I'm carrying at the moment. The cat is a character type, and the sashimi and the box, they are actors. So in this case I'm using interface because I cannot use the same parent class for the 3 of them. One of the not so good about interfaces is it's like a contract between 2 elements, a class and the interface. And it's a contract because when you declare a function in an interface and you have a class that is gonna implement that interface, you have to define the methods of the interface. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But that's the not so cool thing about interfaces. It's a contract, so you have to make that contract happen. And we'll see that in a bit. By the way, I'm writing an article to go along with this tutorial, so you will have the code there with some explanations, and all I'm saying will be there. And also you will have this project with just basic functionality, not this environment and all of this, just the examples and the code, so you can check everything out. First thing we're gonna do is to create an interface, so I'll show you how you create one. We're gonna make not a pure C++ interface, but an Unreal interface, which comes with some perks. So we go to content browser, C++ classes, and then right click here, new C++ class, and here you will select Unreal interface. Then next, and set a name. For this example I'm using interactable, something along those lines. I'm not gonna create it because I already have the one that I'm gonna use in this example, but that will be it. Now if I go to the actual interface, which is in this how to folder, we have the interface here with this icon, which also you can find in Blueprints. Blueprints also supports interfaces. This is a C++ interface, and also I think you can use this exact interface on Blueprints, but you can create just a Blueprint interface. This is C++ focus, so yeah, we're gonna go ahead and yeah. Okay, so the interface is very simple. As soon as you create one, you will see this, and I normally don't touch this part. I usually just create this, which you will see this is completely empty, and then you can start creating the methods that you're gonna see. And the CPP is empty. I only use this part. I think this is because this is the Blueprint interface. I've never done a Blueprint interface. I always do my interfaces on C++ because I mostly do my code on C++. As I was saying earlier, an interface is a contract, but it's also a way to define how a functionality is going to work or how some objects are going to work. And an interactable is kind of easy to think. It's something that you want to interact with, you want to do something with it. So I have these three basic elements for all my interactables or interactables. I have a get name. I'm gonna use these for the UI, so I can get the name of the object that I'm gonna interact with whenever I am close to that object. I have this get quest ID, which returns an F name, and this is because I'm just preparing a simple quest table. So I thought, why don't I provide all the interactives with a quest? So an interactive can have or not have a quest for the player. And finally, this is the interesting part. This is just a normal virtual functions, and this means it's a pure abstract function, so it doesn't have any body. And I said earlier, in an interface you only declare the function, the signature of the function. It has to be virtual, and you set this saying that this is pure, this is not gonna have any body in this class, in this CPP file. But this is a normal Blueprint callable Blueprint native event, Blueprint event. And this is the interesting part, because it's not only a function, it's also a blueprint that we can use in the blueprint that we're gonna use with the actor that implements this interface, for example. We will see all of this later. But this is kind of tricky to use, and it took me a while to manage to get how to use these blueprints, because I wanted to have my interfaces and have a few blueprint events, and it was very, very tricky, and the syntax is very strange. This is only Unreal, this is not C++. Okay, so this is basically the elements that you can have, basically functions. And one thing I discovered is you cannot have properties, and the way you have properties or variables is with this type of getters. So, because this is really a getter, it's a get name and get quest ID. A few more things about this. The way you use these interfaces is the actor, for example, the sashimi item, the box, or the cat, implements the interface, and the character, which in this case is the how-to character. Horrible name, by the way, but that's what happens when you create a new project in Unreal. Really annoying, but it's okay. On this character, I will call that on interact function. So the character is the ones that will have a reference to the interface. It also, when we press the action button on the pad or on the keyboard, it will call this method. So I'm gonna show you first. I have my input in the main player controller. I do this way because different reasons. I usually like to have my player controller using the input, and as you can see I have my character, which is nothing else that it's just a reference to the how to character, and I call this action. Here we have the a how to character, my character, and the reference is just I get the pawn or is in its controlling, and it's that one. So yeah, this method it will do the interact, but it's the how to character who does the rest of things. So let's go to the how to character, and I have a few things. So I have a reference to the interface. Okay, I also have a reference to the actor that is going to contain the interface, and you will see why. There is a reason for that. But the important bit is I keep a reference to that. And as you can see, I have on interactor and only factor. This is because I use these two methods whenever I'm close to the cat, the item, or the box, and I send the actor reference to that. And okay, the action method that I was talking earlier is right here, and it is very, very simple. It's just the action I'm gonna do with the interactive. So let me show you first on interactor and only factor. So I receive an interactive actor reference, and I check if this interactive actor is not null, and if it's not null, I detect if that actor implements the interface. You can do that with this. So you can, and there are different methods. You can do a cast as well, but this is I think the best way. And as you can see, it's a bit strange, but basically we need the EU interactable static class, which is this element right there. And if it does implement the interface, what I do is keep the reference to the actor, and I retrieve that interactable. On leaf factor, I just set both elements to null. This is when I am far away again from that interactive element. And finally, when we use the action, I will check if current interactive, which is the interface, is not null. And now is when I execute that blueprint event, this one. And as you can see, I have to use the name of the interface. Then I need to put this execute on interact, execute underscore, and then on interact, and I need the actor. So yeah, so we have the reference of the actor, and then we need to use the actor. That's the tricky thing about using blueprints with interfaces in this way. If it would be a normal class, I can just do, I can have this, and I can just call any of those elements that you saw that. So you can do get name, for example, that is a normal function, or the get quest. Yeah, but this is important. After we cover these basic steps, now we can see how the sashimi, the cat, and the box works. So let's go back here. So I'm gonna show you this element, which is basically that's an item interactive. If I edit the blueprint, you will see that I have a root scene, I have a trigger, and I have a static message to represent the item. And this extends from item interactive. The item interactive extends from the interface, that's the interface. And I also have this basic class, which is, don't worry about this, because this is, it's because I use the same elements over and over again. So for me, it's easy if I have a basic class, and I'm gonna show you what it is. So the basic interactive is just a normal actor with this trigger and a reference to the player. and then I have the begin overlap and end overlap for the trigger. And if I go to the constructor, you will see that I have these two events for the trigger. On the begin overlap, I get the reference to the player, and I also call the onEnter actor, and I send this actor. So on the other side, I will do the cast and check if this element has the interface. And the onEnd overlap, I basically call onLeave actor. So I use this basic class over and over again when I have any actor with a trigger, and in this case I'm using that with the item interactive and also with that box. Let's go back to there. So you can see that's how you mix interfaces and classes. You could have more interfaces right there. And this is the thing I was talking about, the contract. As soon as I put this, the compiler is going to complain if you don't implement all the functionality that is in the interactable. And if I go down, you will see that this is all of the elements that we have in the interface. So that's the thing. If you have too many objects implementing the interface, you will have to go one by one every time you change the interface. So you have to think about that. But in this case, because I'm using items and a character, and I don't want really the character to know, the main player to know what type of object it is, I'm using an interface to do the action interact, and each element will do whatever it needs to do with that interact, with that when the player interacts. One thing about this, this maybe could be solved with a parent class, but again, because the cat is a character and the box and the item is an actor, I cannot mix both together in the same class. It would be hard because it would need to be like a root, a really basic class. So in this case, interfaces make sense. Okay, now I have to declare the get name, the get quest item, and the blueprint callable blueprint native event. So as you can see, I have this is exactly a copy from the interface, just copy and paste, and this is the actual implementation in C++ of the item. And so every time you use this, C++ or the compiler will require that you do an implementation, a C++ implementation. This is because you can use this on the blueprint, or you can use the functionality in C++. So let's take a look at these four elements. So we go here, we have a few actions, but basically when the how-to character has the reference to this actor and to this interface, it will call this element, and I will do, okay, have I collect this item? Yes or no? Do I have a reference to the character, which comes from the parent? Yes. Now I do a few operations. You can take a look at the code of this. These extra elements are not part of this tutorial, but as you can see, I'm on this element, I'm doing the actions that I want the player to do, instead of the other way around. So I do, okay, grab the item. If it doesn't have an item, grab the item, and then, okay, the item has been collected, so the player cannot interact ever again with this. And I send a blueprint event to the item, whatever it is. I also need to declare, write the body of those two functions. And in this case, just the item name and the get quest ID. Let's go back now to the blueprint that I created for this item. You can just duplicate this and create different items with different static mesh, and you will have different items that you can carry. And if I go to the event graph, I have the event on interact, and this is important. I need to call this in order to execute not only the blueprint part but also the C++ part. If you don't do that, it will just skip the C++ part. This is similar when you call super. begin play, for example. It will do the parent and then the child. So I'm doing the same here. And well, I'm using this item collected, so I won't call this unless this is false. Then I play a sound, and then I put the visibility of the item to false. Let's check the example again. Okay, I go close. When I close, I have a code in the how to character to show the UI and the name of the item, which is using also the interface to get the name. Then if I place the action key, it will grab the item. So now I have, okay, there is a bug there. The item is still there, but that's easy to fix. It's just to remove the collision or maybe destroy the object, I don't know. So yeah, I can get around. And the cat is similar, it also have an interface. So if I get close, the cat code will detect that the player is close, it will call the unentered actor and send the reference, and if I press, so the player will take the reference of the actor cat, and if I press the action, it will show me this UI. I'm gonna show you the code for this, but it has nothing complex. Okay, let's check this cat. As I said, this is a character, not an actor. And again, yeah, apart from the cat and all the normal stuff that a character has, this you create a new character, you will have these elements from Unreal. Again, I have the event on interact, which is come from the interface. I call the parent because I have some code on C++, and I play the sound, the beep sound when I interact. And I believe I have nothing interesting there. Okay, let's go to the cat character code. And as you can see, again, it's a character and it's an interactable again. So the compiler is gonna ask me, please declare those functions that we have in interactable, otherwise I cannot let you continue. And in this case, not using the basic interactive because this is a character and this is an actor. So I need to do the U-box component, I have the trigger, I have, in this case, I decide that this is going to have my quest ID and the character name to show as soon as I get close. I again need to have the begin overlap and end overlap, which are the events for the trigger, and a bunch of more stuff. Again, we have all the functions declared right here. Okay, don't mind that. Again, we have the game name, get quest ID, and the onInteract implementation and onInteract. Let's go to that. What do we have here? This is similar to basic interactive. So we have the trigger with the events. What else? The begin overlap is similar to the basic interactive. I do a few extra steps because building up a series of tutorials, and this doubt prod comes from the other tutorial. But basically, you have to take a look at what is it? Okay, on interactor, which is that function I was talking earlier. So the player, the character, it will receive this reference, and it will keep that reference. And because this actor implements that interface, we will have that interface reference on the character. As you can see, I also ask the player to show the UI with the character name and a few other stuff. When we leave the cat, it will call this player character only factor to set everything to null. And finally, we have here the interesting part, which is the get name. So we retrieve the character name, the quest ID, and on interact, I decided to check if I have any kind of quest for this cat. And this interact implementation is slightly different to the item because the cat is going to give me a quest and the item is going to let me grab the item. So as you can see, two different functionalities which both share the same high level definition. This is the power of interfaces. And the last example I'm going to show you is the box. We'll go through that very quickly. This again is another basic interactive, the same as this actor. It's just a box. I call that push interactive. Again, it's also implements the interface and extends from basic interactive. But in this case, I just have these elements. And if I go to the CPP, when the player interacts with this interactive, I do a bunch of stuff, which is just move the box in a specific direction depending on where the player is facing the box. So this is another example. 3 different objects, they all share the onInteractive end, and they do 3 different actions. Get name and get quest ID, they do nothing. That's it for today's example. I really think interfaces are very useful. It's a good way to clean code and make generic stuff, but keep in mind that if you declare methods on the interface, you will have to propagate that to all of the other classes that implements that interface. So keep that in mind. And well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you like it, please share, like, subscribe, it helps. And thanks for watching. See you next time on the next video. Bye!